Welcome, Japanese woodblock print collectors and enthusiasts. I went on a road trip to a fantastic woodblock print exhibit at the DeYoung Legion of Honor in San Francisco. The title of the exhibit was Japanese Prints in Transition from the Floating World to the Modern World. The floating world in this exhibit starts around the year 1725 and then transitions to the modern world and ends around the year 2018. That's almost 300 years, which is a huge expanse of time in the woodblock print medium. Yet the show was perfect as an introduction to woodblock print genres, artists, and history. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exhibit and talk about some of the amazing prints I saw. At the entrance to the show is the obligatory How Woodblock Prints Are Made video, which is well produced and very educational to those not familiar with the process. There was this great table display with original printing tools and different types of inks. They also had an original woodblock made of cherry wood with a kunichika carving on one side and a kunisada carving on the other. Inside the exhibit, the prints were both chronological and by genre. So as I mentioned, they dated from 1725 to 2018. But within that time period, they had it divided by Kabuki stars, beauties, landscapes, Western influences, etc. So the exhibit was an art lesson and a history lesson, since the prints reflected the culture and transitions that Japan was going through. Since prints of Kabuki actors were the most popular type of woodblock print, the exhibit started with Kabuki stars. We have this Tori Kiyoshige print from 1720 of actors on the stage. And this striking print by Toyokuni of the actor Ichikawa Danjuro VI from 1796. Of course, we had to have a Sharaku print from 1794. It's hard to believe that his career only lasted a year, and he left us with such masterpieces. This angular print is by Toyokuni from a series of actor portraits. I love the economy of line, the simple color palette, and how the personality of the character is so evident. And finally, I love this shini-e print, or memorial print, that was done after an actor died. The actor here committed suicide, and we see his female fans weeping in front of his portrait. I guess shini-e prints aren't usually signed, but they think this was done by Kuniyoshi due to the style and the crying white cat at the bottom of the print. The next section had prints of beauties. That included prints by Harunobu and this one by Eizan of a woman writing a letter. When you're talking beauty, you must include Utamaro, and there were several of his prints on display. In this print of a courtesan smoking a pipe, you can appreciate the beautiful, subtle pattern on her kimono, the curves of her long neck, and elegant features, all hallmarks of an Utamaro beauty. And another one that I liked was this one of a woman writing. This is from a series that highlights the moral decline of women. So on the surface, she's carefully practicing calligraphy, but apparently it's just a facade, and inside she's hiding her rebellious character flaws. The next section had landscapes, starting with this small print by Kuniyoshi of a pleasure boat on the Sumida River. We can see fireworks faintly off in the distance. I think the unusual angle of this composition and the twist on the boatman's body is beautifully rendered. What landscape display would be complete without prints from Hokusai's 36 views of Mount Fuji? There were 9 prints on display, with the world-famous wave off of Kanagawa in the center. I'm not going to talk about these prints since I've done it in previous videos, and there's much more to see, but I will show you this painting that I found in a different part of the museum. It's also called The Wave, and it's by Gustave Courbet from 1869. Can you see Hokusai's influence at work? Now we're going to spend some time on Hiroshige, because I was blown away by his work on display. He is undoubtedly the master of Japanese landscape, but he's also a master of caricature, as we can see in this print of Nihonbashi from his Tokaido series. Look at all of these people inhabiting this small print. Each one of them has a character and a purpose. I could easily see a sitcom or drama series created out of this type of a scene. And look at the important daimyo's procession coming across the bridge in the background, and the townspeople below barely notice them. Keep in mind this print is only about 13 inches wide, and Hiroshige manages to infuse it with this amount of detail. On one of the walls, they had 8 wonderful prints from Hiroshige's 1857 series, 100 Views of Famous Places in Edo. Spend a minute and dive into this print with me. It's number 90 in the series. It's called Night View of Saruwaka Street. This is the theater district of Edo. The moon is bright in the sky and the street is busy with people. This place must have been bustling and frantic in real life, but the print depicts it as very dreamlike and magical. The bright moon is casting shadows that fix these floating characters to the street. Also, look at the amazing work of the printer, the way they've used a limited color palette and gradations to realistically render a very complex scene and pull us into it and through it. This is definitely one of Hiroshige's masterpieces. But wait, another masterpiece, this print called Evening Rain at Tatake on the Great Bridge. Look at the environment he creates in this small space where nature is so dominant and people are at the mercy of the driving rain. And yet another masterpiece, his plum garden at Kameido. Fantastic color and the composition, the interplay between the foreground and the background, and another great influence on the Impressionists. Walking over to the next wall, we have one of Hiroshige II's most famous prints, Kintai Bridge at Iwakuni. And right next to it, 2 more Hiroshiges. This one from the 1834 series, Famous Places in Kyoto, and this print called Cherry Blossoms at Night in the Yoshiwara, from his Famous Places in Edo series. I tell you, this exhibit re-established my deep respect for Hiroshige's work. Okay, let's get out of landscapes and move on to the warriors, myths, and legends section, where we had some triptychs, starting with this well-known Kuniyoshi triptych of Takayasha the Witch summoning the skeleton specter. And close by was this imaginative print of At the Bottom of the Sea in Daimotsu Bay, where we see the spirit of Taira no Tomomori, who was beaten at the naval battle of Dan no Ura. He tied an anchor to his feet and jumped into the sea. Now we're getting to Yoshitoshi. There's a lot of his work in this exhibit since he was considered an important artist that depicted the transition from old Japan to the new era. There were several prints from his most well-known series, 100 Aspects of the Moon. Here is the Monkey King and the Jade Rabbit. And there's a beautiful print that I owned at one time. Not this exact print, but a copy of it, from the series 32 Aspects of Women. The title is simply Dark, and it shows this young wife lighting a lantern. The detail on her robe, her hair, and her expression, and the whole intimate environment are all wonderfully rendered. I thought it was great that they had a print from one of Yoshitoshi's newspaper inserts. This is supposed to be a depiction of a true news story about a black monster attacking a carpenter's wife. Yoshitoshi was really a master of anatomy and perspective, besides having a very dark side to his personality. Here's a print also by Yoshitoshi. It shows a young woman who has found a sugar daddy. She's woken up and is emerging from the mosquito netting and probably got bitten during the night, hence the title, which is Itchy. Now we move into the next segment of the exhibition, which is named Artists Encounter the West and Westerners. So this is the transitional point of the exhibit. With the arrival in Japan of Commodore Perry, the isolation imposed by the Tokugawa shogunate came to an end. We have a couple of prints by Hiroshige II and Yoshikazu that show different types of Westerners. The Japanese were very curious of outsiders, and they liked prints of foreigners doing foreign things and wearing their foreign clothes. Here's a print of a foreign circus by Yoshitoshi, even though I think it doesn't look like his style to me. In this colorful print by Chikanobu from 1888, we can see the Meiji Emperor, Empress, and ladies of the court, all in Western clothing, viewing the plum trees. Chikanobu did so many wonderful triptychs of Japanese royalty, their fashions, and the events they attended. But of course, it can't all be happiness and light. We can't forget that there were a few wars sandwiched in there, like the Satsuma Rebellion and the Russo-Japan War. There were a bunch of war-related triptych prints in the exhibit. But let's go back to beauty and light with this print by Yoshitoshi called The Appearance of an Upper-Class Wife of the Meiji Era. You can see the traditional stylized Japanese features, but with the complete Western-style hairdo, hat, and clothing. The next set of prints show how the landscape of Japan was transformed by railways, steamships, telephone poles, brick buildings, and all the other ugly advancements from the West. There were several prints by Hiroshige III and Kobayashi Kiyochika showing these modernizations. The exhibit finishes with a section on ukiyo-e pop, focusing on only one artist, Masami Teraoka, who was born in pre-war Japan in 1936 and is still producing art today, I believe. These woodblock prints are from his McDonald's Hamburgers and 31 Flavors Invading Japan series. And here he emulates traditional stylistic elements and brings in a modern pop perspective. Finally, I ended up in the gift shop where I had to buy the book of the exhibit. I thought the show was a great overview of 300 years of woodblock prints. It featured some of the best artists and most iconic prints. Plus, dividing the show into the various genres along with a chronology was a great way of understanding the tradition from the Edo era to the modern era. I hope you enjoyed this exhibit walkthrough. Please like and subscribe, and happy collecting.